Hello, welcome to Astro Hi-Fi. My name is Gabby Turner. In this video, we're going to be talking about the lingering effects of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we recently had and how that is affecting whichever house that it fell in. Yes, we are talking about this after the transit, but these types of transits do, like I said, have lingering, reverberating effects. I like to think of any transit as being like a stone that is thrown into a pond. It circles out in all directions, right? So we sometimes like to look at transits ahead of time and sort of prepare ourselves, but we're going to definitely see the effects of those transits in the aftermath as well. So let's do a little bit of brainstorming about what you can expect based on which house of your natal chart Jupiter and Uranus conjoined in the sign of Taurus is going to be taking place in. So you can figure out that for yourself. If you're watching this, you'll need to have some sort of working knowledge of your own natal chart and where your houses are. I personally use a Placidus house system, but you can use a whole sign house system. You just need to know which house of your chart this is falling in to be able to understand my sort of take on the symbolism and the opportunities here. So, first house. If Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus are falling in your first house, then you're going to be embodying a sort of unconventional, avant-garde, like expansiveness, like you could be seen as someone who's like fully identified with out-of-the-box thinking. Like someone who's like, wow, like really looking at the big picture, which is that Jupiter energy. But with Uranus, like allowing yourself to diverge, from typical ways of looking at things. Now remember also this is happening in the sign of Taurus. So there's an interest here in creating stability. So you would be thinking, using your noggin a lot and really being someone who's like, oh man, it's like, it's important to like consider, world views and belief systems, and it's important to think of issues that are global, and which is Jupiter, and that connect us all as members of, people who are participating in these same broad systems. So that's Uranus. You're going to say that sometimes in order to expand stability, so Jupiter and Taurus, we also have to ruffle feathers, Uranus, within more comfortable value systems, Taurus. Taurus is a sign that gravitates towards what is known and comfortable. If we associate it with the tarot card associated with the sign of Taurus is the Hierophant. So the Hierophant, if you are familiar with this card in tarot, it is like a priest standing in front of people, like saying, this is this is what we believe. These are our beliefs. You have to abide by these rules and traditions. Taurus doesn't like to rock the boat. It likes to maintain what has traditionally allowed people to feel stable and secure. So Taurus also has to do with beauty. It has to do with commerce. So you could be someone who is saying like, okay, like, I have a business, or I want to expand my finances here, or I want to improve my experience of the material realm in some way. But I might have to make some changes, Uranus. And the changes that I make may not be ones that everyone is going to like. Some people might be troubled by the changes that I make. But with Jupiter here, there's this sense of optimism that making these necessary changes will bring an expansiveness in the material realm, and it will also bring a greater sense of enjoyment of life. So you're really embodying, however you're approaching it. I mentioned business because Taurus is business related, but you're just really embodying that energy of like, I am free, and I am freeing myself to enjoy life. And I'm also freeing myself to have value systems that are innovative, but also comprehensive. Comprehensive meaning like I'm not just looking at what this segment of the population believes. With Jupiter, I'm looking at like various perspectives here. And with that viewpoint, I have, with Uranus, come to the conclusion that the best way forward, because Uranus is always focused on the future, like how can we pave the way and prepare the way for the best possible future? You're just fully embodying those traits. Also, because the first house is how we look, and that's probably what you all expected me to mention first. You may just kind of embody some quality. It could be in the way that you dress. Maybe you're dressing more sort of like eccentric or delightfully bohemian with Jupiter and Uranus here. You could definitely be experimenting with beauty and clothing and your shoes and like just doing things that are different to sort of like lighten the mood. Jupiter is the great benefic. It likes to be pleasant. So you might be turning heads right now by people who are like, wow, that's an interesting way of dressing. That's an interesting way of presenting yourself. But of course, this doesn't have to just be something that's expressed in the manner of your clothing or your presentation, in terms of what you look like. It also can be in terms of, upon first meeting you, upon interacting with people, they get the idea that you're someone who really is capable of thinking outside the box, and they may not like what you have to say, but they will see that with that first house emphasis, you have to be you. The first house is the house of self, and it's the house where we most have to be ourselves. Even with Jupiter here, which is very expansive and global, and it's like, let me consider all cultures, all nationalities. Even with Jupiter here, even with Uranus, who's like, let's gather into groups, let's create networks, let's understand, where our ideas converge and get together because the group is stronger than the one person alone. Even with that, this is in your first house, which means that you are going to be carrying that energy in a way that is specific to you. So let's say, for example, you get involved in an organization at this time who has a particular belief system and you more or less believe in it. You're probably still not going to be willing to give up your own individualism. And that does often happen, especially in Uranus type situations. It's the whole like the nonconformist group all conforming to each other. It's like, okay, you're not conforming to the mainstream, but then you're in this group where like everybody within that group is still copying each other. The first house is the place of I am an individual. I'm a distinct individual. So you're just going to be coming across very much as an individual, regardless of what sort of belief systems and avant-garde ideas that you are getting involved with now. All right, for those of you who have Uranus and Taurus conjoining or have recently conjoined in your second house, what does this mean for you? So first of all, you've got Taurus in the second house, so this is a very natural placement for Taurus, where Taurus can express itself the most. The second house is about how do we not only survive, because the first house, which is more aligned with the symbolism of Aries, is about survival, the survival of the individual self. In the second house, we start to understand, I don't just want to survive, I want to thrive. So the second house has to do with things that kind of combine the two in a way, like a basket. A basket can be very beautiful, and there's a sense of craftsmanship with making a basket, but it's also useful, right? So I'm not just surviving, but I've found ways to improve my life through the making and the having of material things that are both beautiful, because Taurus is a Venus ruled sign, and practically useful. Taurus is an earth sign, so it needs things to be useful. So with Jupiter and Uranus here, Jupiter wants to expansiveness, so there could be more money coming in for you, for one thing. And if so, it would be coming in via like unusual pathways, like maybe doing some sort of work that you've never thought of doing before, or that most people wouldn't do, something that is not mainstream somehow, or that is very innovative and technological, or future-oriented, or group-oriented. That's all of that is the Uranus emphasis. But also you might be interested in spending your money. Jupiter feels very, optimistic, and in the sign of Taurus, Jupiter feels optimistic about material things, generally speaking. I've got the money, I've got the money to spend. And, I would say one danger of having these planets conjoined here is that there could be erratic spending, and also erratic, that's the Uranus part of it, erratic means of acquiring income, such as, instead of knowing from month to month exactly how much money you're going to have coming in, maybe it's sort of hit and miss. Sometimes there's a lot of money, sometimes there's very little. I can definitely see how this placement might lead someone to want to gamble and take a risk. Uranus is very risk-taking, and Jupiter also, with that, optimism that I mentioned, could get a little bit carried away with gambling. That said, maybe you'll become like a professional poker player at this time, or if you already are a professional poker player, you could see that business really taking off. It would be a great time, if you're an entrepreneur, to expand upon a business by, thinking about the future and how technology is going to change things a lot, AI in particular, but how can you prepare for that? Because Taurus wants to create stability, but with Uranus here, it's like, I need to create stability that's going to matter for the long term. Like, how can I sort of get ahead of the curve here, so that I have the greatest blessing in the future as well? So that's what I see for the second house. Thank you for watching. I'm going to move on to the third house. All right, so for those of you who have Jupiter and Uranus in your third house, what can you expect? Well, this is actually where the conjunction happened for me, and I did a whole video on it, which is a little bit of a sob story. And that's the thing about Uranus, is it can really rattle you sometimes, because you'll be shaken out of your norm. I thought I was in a rut, and this conjunction definitely took me out of that rut. I felt like life was boring. It definitely took me out of that state of being boring, but it brought a lot of sort of chaos and upheaval as well, which Uranus tends to do, and especially because it's operating in the sign of Taurus. The benefit, if we think of it metaphorically though, think of a drill bit going into the earth. The earth, the packed earth, that's very Taurus energy. It's solid, it's stable, it's very difficult to break all that up, especially when we go deep in, right? But there are drills that are designed to do that. And sometimes we need to break new ground in life. And Uranus, throughout its entire transit in Taurus so far, has been doing that in so many ways, regarding the economy and the way that people conduct business. The emergence of AI is bringing even more instability here, but it's also forcing that other aspect of Uranus, which is innovation. How do I adapt? And with Uranus, we need to be able to adapt quickly, but also we need to adapt in a way that's mindful of what other future needs that we might have. And then when we bring Jupiter into the mix, along with Uranus, there can be sort of unexpected blessings. So where are you going to find this upheaval that leads to unexpected blessings? Well, in your third house, we have siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Those are the family members associated with the third house. Also, it's about our thinking style. It's about our neighborhood environment. So what is the neighborhood that we inhabit, and how do we interact with our neighbors? You know, not just the neighbors that we know, but just like people we encounter. Like, who are the people in your neighborhood? In your neighborhood. In your neighborhood. You know, one of the kind of pleasant things that I've experienced personally here is like more engagement with people, but it was more engagement with people, and Jupiter will expand things. So Jupiter in your third house, it will expand maybe your interest in communicating. You might have a lot of thoughts that you want to get out there, and those, along with Uranus, could be very out-of-the-box thoughts, like you're like, I can't just think the way that other people think, you know, like I have to go about it in my own way. I have a unique brain here, you know, like, and I want to tap into that sort of genius mentality that is especially available right now. You know, Jupiter will give you access to a lot of knowledge and wisdom here in the third house. And Uranus is, you know, Albert Einstein is someone who had strong Uranus in his own chart, and it's like those like aha moments of inspiration, the light bulb going off, you know, the mad scientist who's like willing to really like think leaps and leaps ahead of everyone else. And although that might create upheaval, I mean, a mad scientist comes off a little bit wonky, right? We're a little bit scared of the mad scientist, but right now you are the mad scientist, or perhaps the mad guru. Because you're coming into a greater moment of enlightenment and awareness. And that enlightenment and awareness ultimately is bringing you greater stability, because this is all happening in the sign of Taurus. But that stability has to be achieved through breaking ground in a way that can feel chaotic. It can feel unnerving. It can make you feel nervous or anxious. So you may have moments associated with this transit where there is kind of a high level of anxiety. But also what will come from that are blessings. So you could have, perhaps in the end, some sort of improved relationships with siblings, aunts, uncles, and cousins, or improved relationships with the people in your neighborhood. Or even if the relationships don't improve, maybe you just end up unexpectedly moving and you end up having neighbors that you like better than your previous neighbors. Something like that. But, yeah. I would say there also could be just a stronger interest in what people are doing. The third house has to do as well with just like keeping up with the news, knowing what's going on, and especially with Jupiter here, kind of knowing what's going on in the world. And with Uranus, understanding the various sort of fringe perspectives and fringe groups that might be involved and participating in whatever global events are that are happening. So these might be things that you kind of want to, you know, bend your mind around a little bit, and maybe sometimes find that to be an enjoyable blessing, but also it could be a little bit disillusioning sometimes, and also could be a little bit difficult sometimes to get people to understand you, because what your thinking process is so like broad with Jupiter, and so like, you know, it's like that the meme of the woman with all of the mathematical equations around. It's like with Uranus and Jupiter here together, it's like your mind is sort of expansively like shifting the gears around all of these things, and like, okay, you're understanding it, but do you have the capacity to put it into words? With the third house, you're going to want to put it into words. And the sign of Taurus, you'll find a sense of comfort in doing so. You will. So that's something that you can practice right now. Let me try to find the words to solidify to really solidify and bring down to earth in a tangible, expressible way to other people what is going on in my mind. Now with Taurus, it's a sign of beauty as well as stability, and so it could be even that you're creating some sort of art that helps you to process all these wild thoughts that you have, because that might be the most stable way, grounded way to really express something that might otherwise be too kind of all over the place to really get anyone to understand. All right. It could also, I will finally say, happening in your third house, it could open up doors of opportunities in terms of how to use communication, which could be written or spoken, in order to bring in sources of income. And also just being able to think of really great ideas for how to expand income as well, or how to make best use of the income that you currently have to bring that stability. All right, so I hope that helps, third house folks. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Thank you for watching. All right, for those of you who have this as a fourth house transit, Jupiter, Uranus, and Taurus in your fourth house. Now, your fourth house is has to do with your closest personal loved ones, your close friends and family, people who you really feel at home with. And it also has to do with, in general, that sense of feeling at home, that sense of belonging, that sense of like, okay, here are my people and or my environments in which like I can really like curl into it, and I feel safe to be myself. Like I feel emotionally safe and secure to be myself. You know, the fourth house is like when it's acting well, when we're enjoying our fourth house, it's like a very comforting, loving mother, you know. That sort of beautiful, like, oh, I feel nurtured by life. That's at its best. And the fourth house is where we go to seek that feeling. Now, of course, the fourth house is also, because it is so emotionally vulnerable, it is the most vulnerable house really in our chart, because it's the one where we feel our emotions most personally, and where there's the most potential that we could be hurt, to feel hurt or rejected, to feel abandoned or unloved. But also we have the most potential here to feel the opposite of those things. I feel safe. I feel cared for. I feel at peace within my living situation. I have a safe space to return to, where I know I'm loved and accepted. That's the best part of it. So you have a lot going on here. With Taurus already in your fourth house, you're naturally going to be someone who really seeks stability and probably utilizes tangible material things in your life to help you feel safe and secure. You know, it's like typical kind of security blanket, but whatever your security blanket is might be different from someone else's security blanket. But you know, maybe it's like, I really have to wear clothes that make me feel good about myself, or that make me feel like protected, so that, you know, people aren't looking at me and judging me, or something like that. Or I want to, you know, have clothing that makes me feel beautiful, so I have a sense of confidence, so then I'm not going to be worried about, I don't know, being rejected. That would be a big fear. A big fourth house fear would be being rejected or abandoned. Because those are the biggest emotional threats that we have, right? So Jupiter does want to bring a lot of blessings here. Jupiter wants you to understand the possibilities are endless for how you can experience that beautiful safety and security that you've always been seeking. And Jupiter will also remind you of what to be grateful for. What are my blessings? I want to be reminded. I need to pay attention. And this is a great time, because a lot of times we can really take for granted Jupiter. You know, Jupiter is so like Santa Clausy, it's like, can we take for granted the gift that Jupiter is always giving? It's always good to be mindful wherever Jupiter is by house and sign, like be grateful for what you have that you can share with your close loved ones. Be grateful for close loved ones who share what they have with you in order to make you feel loved and safe and protected. If you have a nest egg, be grateful for that nest egg. But Uranus and Taurus, this has been, of course, Uranus has been in Taurus for a long time now, and it's a difficult energy. Uranus is always wanting to think about the future and how we'll need to adapt. It's like looking forward and saying, okay, 10 years from now, 11 years from now, 22, 33 years from now, however, like, what do I need to be prepared for? And whatever I do need to be prepared for is something that Uranus also feels like I need to start making changes now. So what's going on in your personal life, in your most emotionally vulnerable space, your fourth house, that I'm going to need to be prepared to feel safe and secure here because anything could happen, right? How can I be prepared for anything in a Taurus, tangible material sense so that I don't have to feel rejected or abandoned in the future? Well, ironically, in order to sort of waken you up and enlighten you and get you like thinking outside the box, Uranus has to trouble the waters here in your fourth house in some way. So this could be, bringing about some sort of family dilemma, some sort of dilemma regarding, your personal physical environment, whether that's a dorm room, a bedroom, a house, like whatever physical space you retreat to that is home, your little cocoon, your little, crab shell. What is that for you? And what has been troubling the waters is something that's forcing you to think ahead and plan on a material level. But also with Jupiter here, there is this sort of optimism that I can do it. I can create this stability for myself that will protect me emotionally for many years to come. All right, so fourth house folks, I hope that was helpful. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. All right, so everyone who has this happening in their fifth house, Jupiter-Uranus transit in Taurus in your fifth house, what does this mean for you? Well, the fifth house is the house of fun. It's where we just want to have fun in the sun and bring out our inner child in the best possible way. And life is meant to be happy and, we're meant to like frolic and have joy. And everywhere we go, there's an opportunity for fun. Also in the fifth house, we love to express ourselves. We have this wonderful childlike confidence, like kids say the darndest things, right? They say the darndest things because they're like, this was so brilliant, I just had to share it, right? This is also the house of children specifically. So this could have to do with your progeny or children who are relevant to your life. And it also has to do with, any sort of self-expression, which could be art. It could be, the way that you present yourself with your clothing, anything that helps you tell people who you are. Hey, I want you to see my light. I want my light to shine. That's the fifth house. So Jupiter and Uranus here are bringing you sort of zany, off-the-wall ways of bringing more brightness, more positivity, more self-expression, more like unique ways to have fun. So let's say, for example, I don't know, with Uranus and Taurus, Uranus is going to bring unexpected changes in finances. Could be for the better, could be for the worse, could be sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, all over the place. And you never know what to expect. Well, if you have children, your children need to have fun, right? Your children need attention. So what are you going to do to adapt? So Uranus troubles the waters in order to make us think about how to adapt, and think outside the box. So this could definitely be a time when you learn how to, make situations fun. Find friendship groups for your kids, maybe, because Uranus also has to do with groups. Or like after school learning opportunities. Jupiter has to do with schooling and higher education. Church related groups also. Jupiter has to do with religion. So, how can I either involve my children in activities that allow them to stay stable? How can I allow them to feel safe and secure materially, and not feel these ups and downs, these chaotic, turbulent, things that could be happening in the economy. Also with Jupiter here, there could be unexpected financial blessings, again, because Taurus is about finances, but you have to, again, use that Uranus principle of thinking of the future. Okay, here's an unexpected blessing, but I need to make sure that I don't just blow this all at once, because I also have to be thinking of the future here. Now, if you don't have kids, then it's just how can you get in touch with that, childlike spirit of being. Maybe there are groups that you want to get involved with, or you want to go off and do something that you've never done before, travel somewhere you've never traveled before, and finding unique opportunities to do those things and expanding fun in your life. So overall, I would say this is a pretty positive transit. The 5th house is a fun house, but you don't want it to become a scary carnival, right? To stick down into that Taurus stability and stay grounded, because with Uranus, we never know what to expect. We always have to expect the unexpected. We can always fall down and cut our knee, right? So how do we, pick ourselves back up and pull ourselves together and get back to laughing again? All right, so good luck with this transit, 5th house. Let me know if there's anything else you've noticed that you've been experiencing related to this. I would be curious to know, and thank you for watching. All right, so those of you who have this in the 6th house, I can't hold up 6 fingers because I'm holding the camera with my other hand. What can you expect with the Jupiter-Uranus transit taking place in your 6th house? Well, the 6th house has to do with the health of your body and also the health of your environment. It's also like the sort of boring tedium of life, like to-do lists and chores, like keeping things organized, keeping things running smoothly, including, like I said, our physical bodies, as well as our environments, keeping things efficient. And it also has to do with our pets. And it has to do with the relationship between employees and employers. It's about service, so it's more the energy here in the 6th house is more of the employee. I'm here to serve, and of course that doesn't have to just be in an employee situation as well. It's just in life, all of us are at service to each other, even if it's like helping a friend to move or something like this. This is the house where we're like, okay, I need to help people, and I also need to keep my own life running smoothly so I can be, a better helper for both myself and others. It's also that, like, house of self-care. Like, I need to put the mask on myself first, again, so I can be prepared to help other people. So with Jupiter and Uranus here in the sign of Taurus, Uranus is always going to challenge us a little bit with its unpredictability. That doesn't mean that Uranus is bad, but it's in a sign where it is especially, like, when it shakes things up in the sign of Taurus, it really has shaken up some things that we got very used to. We got used to things being this way. So maybe you had schedules or routines or a way of approaching your house cleaning regimen or your healthcare regimen that you just gotten used to. Uranus is going to come along and like say, here's the alarm going off. Like, no, you're going to have to change something. And that could be anything. Maybe you have a friend who has a health scare and it makes you reevaluate. I might need to change what I'm doing with my life so I don't have that health scare. It could be something like that. With Jupiter here, though, there's optimism because, yes, things did get upset. Our routine maybe had to change drastically. For some reason, schedule at work changed drastically, and you used to work first shift and now you're working third shift, or maybe you're working erratic shifts, and it's a lot to get used to. But there's some sort of blessing here with Jupiter, and Jupiter could be, for one thing, bringing you greater health through some sort of unexpected changes in your physical and material environment, in your schedules and routines. It could be something to do with your pet as well that is unexpected. But ultimately, there is a blessing here. There's wisdom to be gained at the very least. You know, at the very least, that is the blessing that Jupiter can offer in any given situation is, you know, it's that whole being able to see the silver lining. I don't know what else to say here about transits through this house, but just be mindful that this is a time when you can gain greater health and a better way, a more innovative and adaptable way of approaching self-care and to-do lists and chores and things like that. So it's a time to embrace that. And whatever changes might be happening to help provoke that are happening to sort of encourage you to do what you probably needed to already do anyway. All right. Thanks so much for watching 6th House, folks. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.